Welcome to Minnesota Housing's tutorial, which provides a high-level overview of how awards are sized. Minnesota Housing's mission is to provide access to safe, decent, affordable housing and build stronger communities across the state by offering products and services to help Minnesotans buy and fix up their homes and stabilize neighborhoods, communities, and families. Minnesota Housing also supports the development and preservation of affordable rental housing through both the financing and long-term asset management of projects and developments. The agency has also pioneered a successful model for supportive housing that helps stabilize the lives of some of the state's most vulnerable citizens. Rather than highlight changes to the underwriting standards, this tutorial outlines Minnesota Housing's approach to how awards are sized, including housing tax credits, deferred funds, and amortizing first mortgages. It is important for developers to understand how this approach may impact the amount of funding that is awarded, as well as scoring. Minnesota Housing's goal is to fund as many developments in affordable units as possible each year. In order to ensure projects are not oversubsidized, Minnesota Housing employs a consistent five-step approach to sizing funding awards and utilizes information outlined in our multifamily underwriting standards to make decisions. Rents as well as operating budgets may be adjusted up or down. The next two slides will provide more detail on this analysis. Rents are reviewed to make sure they are in compliance with the scoring categories selected in the self-scoring worksheet or deferred priority checklist and potential funding sources. But we also review to verify whether they are appropriate for the market. Minnesota Housing reviews the proposed rents against the market study, fair market rents or FMR, Section 8 payment standards, the proposed population, rental assistance sources, and Minnesota Housing's portfolio of existing developments. The proposed operating expense budget is analyzed to make sure that the development will be sustainable for the long term, including reserves. Minnesota Housing may make adjustments based upon information supplied in the application, the specific development type, and the economics of the current marketplace. In its analysis, Minnesota Housing places emphasis on comparable properties from its portfolio of existing developments. In Step 2, the amount of amortizing debt is sized according to Minnesota Housing standards. In order to size housing tax credits and deferred loans, an amortizing mortgage will be assumed at the higher of the proposed mortgage, or an assumed mortgage based on Minnesota Housing's low and moderate income rental terms, also known as LMIR. The assumed mortgage will be based on the adjusted rents and operating budget determined in Step 1. The appropriate pro forma assumptions are based on multifamily underwriting standards, including vacancy, reserves, income and expense inflation factors, debt coverage ratio or DCR, and loan term/amortization, among others. A consistent interest rate is estimated based on the LMIR rate being offered for the RFP. Note that LMIR rates for the RFP are typically based upon the July rates in effect. The actual rate is determined by Minnesota Housing's Finance Department. In Step 3, the development budget is reviewed and may be adjusted. Staff reviews the development budget to ensure it is appropriate and does not contain unnecessary cushion. Items that are considered include, but are not limited to, acquisition costs, construction costs and contingency, developer fees, including the processing agent, and construction management fees. Along with this, also note that the deferred developer fee may be adjusted as well. Soft costs, loan and bond fees, and capitalized reserves. If the original amount of housing tax credits is no longer supported based on previous adjustments, the amount of housing tax credits may be reduced. The amount of the deferred loan will be based on all of the previous adjustments. Finally, for those applications that are not requesting a Minnesota Housing amortizing first mortgage, the original proposed terms and loan amount will be re-entered into the workbook. Funding gaps that are created by this exercise could impact the development score. The ability to resolve the gap is considered part of the overall feasibility of the proposal. In this manner, Minnesota Housing strives to appropriately and consistently size funding awards while balancing the goal of funding as many affordable units with the lowest amount of subsidy feasible. For more information about the underwriting process or our underwriting standards, please contact Susan Thompson or visit our website at www.mnhousing.gov. Click Multifamily Rental Partners on the right side of the screen, and then click the Apply for Funding tab and choose Application Resources. Thank you for taking the time to view this tutorial and for all you do to provide affordable housing in Minnesota.